From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the prize.
From the battlefield to the boardroom, this is Dog Tags to Ownership, the podcast where veterans share their journeys from serving our nation to leading in business. Hear inspiring stories of grit, growth, and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives those who've served to succeed. Tune in and take the first step toward your own mission in entrepreneurship.
Military One Percenters, welcome to Dog Tags to Ownership, where once a week we interview veterans who charted a path towards entrepreneurship. Here, our goals are to share resources, advice, and success stories about starting a business, discuss strategies for building financial independence and creating your own path, and most importantly, build a community to support each other through the challenges of transitioning from service life to civilian ownership. We are extremely excited to introduce our guests to the show. Zach and Jessica Cunningham. Zach is an active duty Army officer stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and the co-founder and brand architect of Fifth Haven, Cachaça. Jessica is a native of Brazil and the brains of the operation. Zachary and Jessica, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today to tell your story about turning your dog tags into ownership. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you all. I know you're just getting the business going and about to launch it here December 9th. But before we get into the business and Fifth Haven and what all it is and how you guys got into it, can you first just tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Well, my name is Jessica. I'm originally from Brazil. I have been in America for almost 10 years now. I'm active duty as well. Now I'm the officer side. I'm in school.
For myself, so I've been in the Army. February will be 13 years. I was on the enlisted side for 10 years as a 35 Fox. I went from an E1 all the way up to an E6, where then in ROTC, I picked up 7. So I'm counting that I made E7, but I picked up E7 my last year of ROTC in the Green to Gold program. And then 4 months later, I had commissioned. I've been at Fort Campbell for going on 2.5 years now.
Back to the endeavor that you both are taking on, it doesn't hurt to have the logistics background, I would say, over the intel. And a lot of the folks we've talked to on this podcast, have been in the logistics field or a former logistics officer. So we had someone on very early on the podcast, and I think that can really pay dividends. Or when you decide to maybe get out of the military, and creates a lot more opportunities, I think, for you.
Yeah, 100%. And she's actually logistics too. She's a 92 Yankee. So we've got
Awesome.
both sides.
Jessica, you're getting your MBA right now. Where are you going to school for your MBA?
APSU.
I was wondering if you're going to Austin P or not. I think with you getting your MBA and then also your logistics side, I'll go back to my earlier comment where Jessica is definitely the brains of the operation, I think. And then Zach, you're just the face pushing it everywhere. But I guess to get started, how did this idea come about? What got you guys thinking you wanted to start Fifth Haven and get it off the ground? And what is it exactly?
Yeah. So it really started, and I'm going to go back here. So when I was in college, so I went for my bachelor's in business administration. I was kind of getting tired of just all the books. For my senior year, I was really wanting to do something hands-on. I was trying to get the professor to think of this as hey, if I start a business, and that count as my grade for the entrepreneurship course. And he was like, yeah, if you can. And I was like, all right, great. So me being I was 30 at the time, and I was surrounded by 22 year olds. I was trying to gather them all in and get them on board or whatever. And the original idea was that we was going to start a bar in the town because the only bar they had was at a Mexican grill. And the other bar that they had was at the bottom of a hotel. Everybody, they went there. It was only lasted a year or two before it got ran out of town. We didn't know this. We were like, hey, this college town needs a bar, needs a place for the kids to just let loose, have fun. So we started talking. We started getting with the Small Business Development Center. We started talking to the city hall, the people of that organization, and they were on board. They were like, yes, we need this. And then it came to funding, and nobody wanted to fund us. And then we started getting into the rules and the regulations and really starting to figure out why there wasn't a bar in town. And what it essentially ended up being is that the alcohol sales in the state of Virginia. So you can't have just a bar in Virginia, apparently. You have to have a bar that's tied to a restaurant. And so if you do have a bar that's tied to a restaurant, the bar sales, the liquor sales cannot exceed the food sales. And if it does, you get fined. So that was our point of where we were like, okay, this isn't going to happen. By the time, but we did all the research, we did the business plan, like we basically did everything but establish an LLC and get investment. So that actually counted for our grade, and he was okay with it. When I left there, that's when I knew like I wanted to do something with alcohol, because I had already had a little bit of knowledge of like the ABC and then just kind of going and talking to people. And so that's when her and I came up on the idea of like her cousin makes alcohol. It's called Cachaça. And so we were like, okay, well, how do we get it here? And so that took about a year to figure it out, or is when we actually started talking to a small business development center right here in Clarksville. And so as we're talking with them, they're kind of giving us a little bit of ideas, kind of giving us a little bit of experience that they've had, because he had actually had a local bar that he had started and that he ended up selling, and it was like a little brewery. So he had a little bit of ideas and whatnot with it. So they were just really just helping us with like, the legal side of lighting up a business and kind of trying to like introduce us to stuff, to different people and different organizations. From January to March was when we were like, okay, we're going to do this. So we went on LegalZoom. We got a business license. 2 months later, we flew down to Brazil. We went, how many distilleries did we check out? Like 4 different distilleries. And mind you, we went down there thinking, all right, hey, we're just going to go, we're going to buy some land, we're going to build a distillery, we're going to do it ourselves, and it's just all going to work out, right? And she had one cousin that he's known for his cachaça. Everyone comes, they buy it from him. And he just didn't have a very good distillery. And at the time, we were thinking, oh, it's Brazil. We could take anybody's cachaça and bring it back here. That is not the case. And that was far from it. So we get down there, we're looking at it, and I'm like, okay, like this could pass. It wasn't going to pass. Like it didn't meet the regulations that the country even accepts, let alone the unknowns that we didn't know to get the cachaça from, say, that specific place all the way to the United States. We looked at a couple other distilleries. There was another one that was actually really nice that we had actually talked to, and we were like waiting for a call back, and they kind of just kept like, hey, we have something else to do, but we will get back to you type situation, back and forth. And then we landed upon her distant cousin, which I don't know why no one decided to bring this up in the beginning, was already
distant cousin.
exporting it to other countries. So he was already certified through MAPA, which is their organization that allows them to traffic the alcohol. He had all the certifications, and ultimately we ended up going with him. We fell in love with the process. Like as soon as we walked in, he's like, take your shoes off or put these on. It was like a shoe protector. We had to put those on, and we had to walk around the distiller. Couldn't touch anything. Like, hey, like, oh, you're standing too close. Back up. Don't breathe. Like stuff like that. And then just the story of how the distillery came and his background. And we were like, all right, this is the one we want. And it just felt right.
Where was he exporting to at that time, I guess? Like, what did his production sort of look like at that time when you visited with him?
So he currently exports to Europe. It goes under the name of Tijuca in Europe. He has a small brand, or it's his brand, but he ships to Argentina.
And then what are, I guess, like as far as like his ability to support the production, what are you guys looking at when things start to ramp up here?
So at most we can do is 10,000 bottles a year. At most with just what he has. And right now it's one copper steel pot with a fireplace, and that's it. The distillation kit, that's it. Alembic is what they call it. So if we needed to, we could expand. We could do another one, which he kind of talked about, like, hey, if we wanted to, we could, but it's going to take away from the precision and the amount of effort that he puts into it, which we're okay with. Like, I think 10,000 bottles is perfect for us if we get there, which hopefully we do. But initially, like, we're very small batch. Like our first shipment that's coming here is only 2,400 bottles.
Can you explain, I think, to everybody what cachaça is? Because I don't think is there any other import from Brazil of cachaça in the United States, or are you guys gonna be the first one? And then what kind of liquor is it, just for our listeners and followers?
So what cachaça is sugarcane. It's the fermented juice of sugarcane. So it's very close to rum. And a lot of people, so I'll tell you, so before 2012, any cachaça that was here was considered rum. And it took until 2012 for the US government and the government of Brazil to come to an agreement through the TTB that says, hey, we want our own category and it's going to be cachaça, but it came with its own rules. And those rules was that one, it had to be at least aged for a year and it has to come from the country of Brazil. So even if, say, like somebody here in Louisiana who has sugarcane, they can make it, but they can't classify it as cachaça. What it is, the difference is it's the fermentation of the sugarcane juice. So what they do is they take the sugarcane, they go out, they chop it all off until it's just a stick. They run it through a press and then the juice comes out. They collect that juice and then they let it ferment for about 24 to 36 hours. And then once it's done with that is when they then run it through the copper stills. And then it's broken down into 3 parts, the head, the heart, and the tail. And it's the heart that you keep. And that's the alcohol that you drink. Now, the cool thing about ours is we're a zero waste production. So what we do is for the heart or the head, we actually use that as an alcohol cleansing for the actual distillery. And then the heart is what we keep and we drink. And then the tail is what we use as refertilization to put on the ground for the sugarcane for the next harvest or for the next plantation. Now, the reason why a lot of people call or get it mixed up with rum is because rum also comes from sugarcane, the sugarcane plant. However, it comes from the molasses of it. And so because it was so similar, they're like, oh, we'll just call it rum. So anytime you're looking for cachaça, most of the time it's labeled under a rum.
So are there other cachaças in the United States that are imported from Brazil currently?
So there's a couple. Yep. So there's 51, which is a really big one. However, there's 2 categories, right? When we're talking about cachaça. So you have your industrial and then you have your like your small batch artisanal. And so a lot of them that are here is either the industrial or kind of a mixture of both. So it's either industrial or it's going to be the artisanal. And there's a lot less artisanal than there are the industrial. So as she mentioned earlier, there's like 51. So 51, everyone knows 51. When I say everyone that knows cachaça, they say, oh, 51. Then you have the next one up, which is more of your in between of the industrial and artisanal, which is Novo Fogo. And Novo Fogo, they're the ones that kind of experiment with the different woods. I believe they have like 4 to 5 different products, but they're actually getting into like the teas and whatnot. So it's like a tea mixed cachaça. And then you have another one, which is, I don't want to say it's the epitome of cachaça because it's industrial to the sense that they cut it with water, but it is like they're the ones who got like the $200 million buyout, and they're called Leblon. And so Leblon is a beach. Yeah. So a lot of times what they do is they name these cachaças off of places in Brazil. So like Leblon would be the like a beach in Brazil. There's a couple other ones. How do you say the yippee?
Ipitumba.
Yeah, say that one. So there's that one, which is artisanal, very small. And then you have a belha, which is Abelia. So you have Abelia, which is the one that's kind of mixed with honey. And then you have ours, which we are completely just straight up artisanal, USD organic. We did get that certification.
And the name of yours is Fifth Haven. Can you talk about the name a little bit?
The idea behind the name was Fifth Haven as paying homage to the 5th largest country in the world, which would be Brazil. And then because of our reforestation project that we're like building onto, because the distillery, they already have something that they've been doing like locally in their land, just restore the forest, basically what they tear down. They've been doing it for the last 15 years. And so we're piggybacking off of that and then providing a proceed to that after every sale. And that plays into the haven part And then we're also looking at keeping the water clean and then a sanctuary for animals that live in that forest. That's pretty much where the name came from. And then the logo is supposed to be the sugarcane. It simulates sugarcane. And then it's in the shape of a half sun because sun is what grows the sugarcane.
Who came up with the name?
You.
Yeah.
Because I wanted the Silva because the Silva is my middle name. And then to pronunciate the Silva, it is more easy than Fifth Haven. So I'm in Brazilian. Brazilian cannot say Fifth Haven at all. I don't know why, but that's why.
They
It's
can
like
say it.
Can't.
They say Haven, Fifth Haven.
it's like Julie saying Cachaça.
Yeah, exactly. You said that you guys came up with this idea about a year ago now, and you went down to Brazil, went to a few distilleries, 4 distilleries, and then you landed on your distant cousin's distillery. That's the one you guys landed on. But whenever you landed on that, like, what was the process then for you?
Yeah. So it is definitely a lengthy process. First, you got to start out with your permit. So you have to have a company that's established. And for us, so we'll get to that. But so basically we had to have our basic permit for alcohol. Then we had to have a business permit to be able to sell alcohol. And then later we found out we had to have a wholesaler's permit, even though we're not selling it. And so we had to go through all that, which that took about 6 months to almost 7 months to get all of that. And then we started getting into the actual importing part. And then this is where it was kind of a light at the end of the tunnel because we met Park Street. And so Park Street, what they ended up doing is like, hey, we noticed that you did all this work. We got all these permits. However, give them to us and then we will import for you. And so they kind of took all that on for us. To speak on like what it actually would entail from what they are doing is a lot. Like I wouldn't even know who to contact. I wouldn't even know a shipping company. I didn't even know what a co-loader was. I didn't even know who at US Customs I would need to contact to be like, hey, I have a shipment coming. The last time I contacted Customs, I felt I was being attacked. Why are you calling us? What do you need? What are you bringing in? What do you want? What do you need? And we're like, whoa, like I was asking a simple question. And so luckily they took a lot of that on. But to speak on what it all is that they do, I couldn't tell you other than the little things that I've tried to do.
How did you come across Park Street?
So I came across Park Street through Josh, our mentor. So got on score.org. Just happened to chat GPT. It said, I need a mentor. And I was like, oh, check out score.org. And I was like, free mentors. And so I met Josh. Josh's mentor was the guy who created Fanta. And then Josh kind of used him to figure out the CPG industry and all that good stuff. And then he launched his alcohol brand, which was an imported vodka called Marietta, which was a vodka brand that was tailored to working professional women. And so from there, he is now a consultant for like a lot of these big businesses, like these big industries, especially like in the CPG field. So he doesn't specifically focus on alcohol as much anymore, but he was able to be like, hey, I've worked with them before, reach out to them. They'll handle your whole back office paperwork and all that. And they will be your port of import, basically. They have their own warehousing down in Miami. And so we kind of got lucky with that. And they also act as our distributor too.
I'm assuming you import to them, and then like where are you? Like where can if somebody wants to go buy Fifth Haven, where are you guys located and where do they distribute to and all of that stuff?
Yeah. So right now we've partnered with Flavier. I think Flavier. It's Flaviar. I say Flavier, but everyone else I talk to calls Flavier. But they're a DTC, right? They're a direct to consumer online. Basically, what they've done is they've bought out Speakeasy and they bought out another big company that did all the direct to consumer online sale e-commerce. So we're strictly through them, but because we have Park Streets and we have them, we're located in technically 9 different states. The main one is going to be in Florida, where like the biggest part of our target market is. And there's a store down there called Nick and Mo's. So if anybody wanted to actually go into a brick and mortar store to get it, as of right now, it would be Nick and Mo's. But online, they can get it in 9 different states.
If somebody went to your website, could they order from your website or do they have to go through the distributor to be able to order?
So as a wholesaler or just as an individual?
Just as so if I wanted just go on your website, was checking it out. Could I order a bottle of Fifth Haven and send it to myself, or is that you have to go through the distributor?
You go online, you go buy now, and it'll pop up and you can place your order. So what they've done is Flavier has actually did like a back door. So it's actually a Shopify like cashiered like checkout, but you never leave our website.
Uh,
So you stay on our website, you buy everything, and then what they'll do is it'll route through their Shopify store, and then Nick and Mo's will ship it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know we met through the bar book through Mike, and so I'm assuming you're on his app or getting on his app. Is the next thing for you guys, is it to get into bars for cocktails and start for people to start serving the cocktails with your drink?
The product that we're rolling out with is strictly for cocktails. One of the things I didn't mention earlier is from the other cachaça brands that are here is so they have what they call traditional, which there's no flavoring, there's no like it just rests in steel containers basically for a year. It adds no flavor. They just have to just let it age for a year. It has no flavor other than the grassy flavor that comes from the sugarcane juice. A lot of times they will use that in cocktails. One of the main cocktails is called a Caipirinha, which is like the staple of Brazil. It's like everyone
Yes.
drinks it. Do you want to say it the correct
The
way?
Caipirinha, yes.
She says it correctly. But that is like what is known for cachaça is the Caipirinha. And a lot of times they will use the traditional one. Now we're a step ahead of that. So we are aged in a wood called Jequitibá wood, which kind of gives it a more of a fruity, less vegetal flavor, but it also keeps its color. So it doesn't really change it to like that yellow gold. It keeps it silver, which is why we call it silver. And so when you're talking about the cachaça, the cocktail scenes and stuff like that, so we're more of like that next level up. We're looking for those more refined cocktails that it's in because with the traditional, what it does, it really overpowers. So in the caipirinha, it's two ingredients: it's the sugar and it's the lime. And so when you drink it, it really overpowers the lime and that sugar. Where ours, what it does, it really complements it, and so it really tastes, you taste more of the drink itself without really understanding, like, okay, hey, I can really just taste a lot of alcohol. You actually are consuming and understanding, like, hey, the flavor of the lime and the sugar is compatible to the actual drink itself.
Have you guys already like partnered with some bars that are going to start carrying it as you import it into the United States and start distributing it?
The first state that we're rolling out in is in Florida, and they have like their own laws. We have to go down to Florida. We got to get fingerprinted. We have to basically get registered with the state in order to even approach
Huh.
people to be like, hey, can we get this into your store and stuff? As of right now, a lot of other mentors that we've talked to, I spoke to a gentleman this morning. His name was Troy. I'll have to look up his name. You might know him, but he's down in Florida. He owns, what was it, Ashley One Bourbon. So I talked to him this morning, and he was kind of telling us like, hey, like your best path right now is DTC, like go hard on using Flavier and all that. Now, up here in Tennessee, we were working with an incubator out in Chattanooga, and they have their incubator is actually set up in a bar, so it's kind of cool. So like they're more in the food and bar industry, but they have a lot of participants that have alcohol and whatnot, and they have a bar network and cachaça cocktail scene that they use to get their products in. They've actually offered for us to get our product in there.
Awesome. Yeah. So what is that? That's the next step, is getting into bars. What
The
Well,
next
that every day.
So the next 2 years is really just making sure that we don't go bankrupt. After 2 years, so within that 2 years, we're hoping to get at least 4 or 5 batches over here. And then once we've done that, we will introduce our second product, which will probably be our only 2 products, which will be a gold version. And then we will ride on those until probably 10, 15 years. But the idea is start with direct consumer, educate our consumer base, and then slowly start, expanding. I really don't want to expand out of Florida until at least 8 or 9 years. Once I really know like I've got a good foothold in that state is then when we'll consider moving into another state. In the sense of like brick and mortar, getting into actual retailers. Now, obviously, direct to consumer. I mean, it's the 9 states. All we have to do if we wanted to get into we wanted to get into what, 42 or is it? Yeah, it's 42 of the, 42 states is what they offer. All we have to do is just change the warehousing. But again, we got to be able to be at that point to where we're not just bringing in 2,400 bottles. We can actually bring in, 5,000 at a time or the whole 10,000 and write it out for the year. Like our biggest thing is educating our consumers and then just focusing on the state of Florida and then eventually branching out. And then after that, after 10 years, my goal is big. We want to have our own warehousing, we want to have our own importing. No, we want to have it all, but no. 10 years is when we'll look at relook at where we are and kind of see if we're ready to expand. And then that's kind of like the general guidance I'm getting from like all these mentors, the different people that I'm talking to, is just like, hey, don't move too quick. Like moving quick will bankrupt you quicker than anything. And so it's a very slow game is what it sounds like.
That's okay. Think about the stock market and real estate. There's a lot of slow plays to eventually create a lot of wealth. And I imagine the beverage industry is one of those as well. Start small and then just grow the business as it is supported by the consumer base. What kind of, just broadly, you mentioned not going bankrupt. What kind of money are we talking has it taken so far to get where you are, I guess, close to the distribution phase of this?
So as of right now, we are north of 86,000.
Okay.
That's with getting the bottles, getting the liquid, getting the labels, the corks. The corks come from Argentina. The bottles come from Argentina. With the marketing, with getting everything set up, the logo itself was like 10 grand. It was like 8. And then we had to do some adjustments. The website, that cost a pretty penny.
It's a great looking website, by the way. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He put a lot of work into it. A lot of us going back and forth. It took like what, almost 8 months?
Oh yeah.
It was about 8 months work. And then just importing it. Importing alone is almost been, I'll tell you this, it's actually not as expensive as you think, but we're pushing about 6 grand from them going and picking it up, taking it to the port, shipping it across the ocean, getting it to the customs, and then to the final warehousing.
Okay.
So I was thinking it'd be like 10, 15, but it is roughly like 6 grand is what we're looking at.
Okay. And when do you break even? When do you get your 86,000 back? And when do you maybe start earning a couple dollars?
So
projected,
if we sell the 2,400 bottles at our price point, then the first batch,
nice.
we'll have made the 86,000 back plus an extra 20.
Okay. And what's the price point for the consumer?
So for the consumer, it's $64.99.
Bad.
Yeah. It's just right there at that premium level.
No, yeah, that's great. Yeah, Julie and I are primarily bourbon drinkers. I blame her for me now being a bourbon drinker. But that seems reasonable to me for like a good bourbon, 50 to 100, somewhere in that range. So seems very reasonable.
Tariffs really got us. The last minute. So it was originally a 10% tariffs, and that was fine. And then in August, they got us with an additional 40% tariff.
You're talking about you have somebody design your website. You have a company that does your distribution. How many employees do you have? Is it just the two of you, or do you employ like your website designer? Who does your social media? Who does all of those things for you all?
In America, it's just my wife and I. We're the ones that built the company. She's the face and the brains. When it comes to the website, when it comes to the marketing, one thing that we have as advantage is she speaks Portuguese and she's got a lot of connection down in Brazil. So what we're really trying to get at is that authenticity piece. So the web designers from Brazil, the marketing is from Brazil, so we're able to coordinate with them. When it comes to what the distribution and all that, obviously it's Park Street, and then the Flavier is American company.
Yeah, so mostly like back end folks that are doing it for you, not necessarily full time employees that you guys have.
Can't forget the distant cousin.
Yeah, the distant cousin.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Yes, the distiller.
Yeah, he's amazing. He have been helping us a lot. Like we're real lucky, and he's amazing.
We'll go into our final two questions, unless there's anything we didn't ask you that you want to bring up on the podcast.
Maybe we should say why you choose Florida first. Did you say that? Why
No,
did
you want to talk
choose?
about that? Why we chose Florida? I mean, we chose Florida. So one of the things that we didn't mention was the reason why we chose Florida is it's like the biggest population for Brazil. And once we identified like it's going to be really hard to get in on post, we kind of pivoted a little bit, but we always had in mind like there was two target groups that we wanted to get was the Brazilians in America, and then the main one was going to be on post. Since this one's kind of on the back burner, which is why we decided because you got Orlando, you got Miami, and so with Orlando and all the Brazilian restaurants and a lot of the famous Brazilians come there was really why we focused on Florida at first.
So my question is, I'm into real estate investing, but is there a book or audiobook or a podcast or anything that you would recommend to our listeners that's maybe helped you all out in this process or inspired you or anything like that?
Yeah. So it's pushed through the army all the time, but it's Start With Why. It's how great leaders inspire everyone to take action. I believe it's by Simon Sinek. Sinek. Yeah, I would definitely look at that. It basically takes your thinking instead of like in business, right? So in starting with like what everyone starts with is like what you want to do or what you have or what your service is, it reverses it and it's like, well, why? And it really focuses on just the why, the purpose, the belief, or the reason why you exist. And it really kind of takes it and flips it. And actually,
Julie, I'm excited for your questions.
All right. So our last question of every episode, Admiral William McRaven authored their book, Make Your Bed, Little Things That Can Change Your Life and Maybe the World. So do you all make your bed every morning?
want to answer that?
Yes.
She makes it. I make it most of the time, but a lot of times she picks up where I leave off.
Teamwork.
Go ahead, Matt. I'll let you close this out.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, both of you. It's been extremely enjoyable to have you on here. And one thing that stood out to me, Zach, is for you starting this process January of 20, how advanced you are, I think, in communicating what you've accomplished and all of the ins and outs and everything that you both have done and the effort that you put forward to get where you are today. And, you'll be just under the, 2-year mark. I applaud you for both being active duty full time. Jessica's going to be working on her MBA. And then to also be building a business, while doing all this and supporting troops and families and all that stuff that we do as service members. I just applaud you both for what you've accomplished so far.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a journey.
Long night.
Yes. Very long.
Military One Percenters, whether you're brainstorming your first business idea, already running a company, or just curious about where to start, DogTags the Ownership is the place for you. Please hit that subscribe button to receive all new episodes. Also, if you know someone who has turned their dog tags into ownership, drop us a DM on social media or tag someone. We are always looking for new guests to bring onto the podcast. And as always, Military One Percenters, thank you for your service. Let's continue this journey and working together to write our next chapter. Until next week, keep pushing to turn those dog tags into ownership.
From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best.